Hi everyone! Welcome back to
another video.
Thank you so much for your support over the past month. As you guys know, right now we're in the midst of summer intern season. I know a bunch of you guys probably started on Monday already.
What are you talking about, bro? Yo, I was celebrating Memorial Day, son. It was Monday.
Alright, my bad. Tuesday. Yeah. And we have a bunch of you guys starting next week as well, which is, I think, the boat that our interns are in.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why today we're going to make a video about how to get a return offer as a summer analyst and some of the tips and tricks we had. You know, look, as you can tell, you know, we are super successful. We came in these fits into our summer internships and we executed. And so today we're going to share, you know, the tips and tricks and guidelines for you guys to get return offers, as you know we did at you know, middle market and bulge bracket investment banks. So you know, stay tuned.
Yeah, and we were scrolling down Wall Street Oasis, and we saw a lot of you guys were probably a little bit nervous about market conditions. You know, like apparently like class sizes are shrinking, return offer rates are declining. I think there's a lot of worry about that. But don't worry, if you follow these few simple steps and few simple tips and tricks, that return offer is guaranteed 99.9% of the time.
Always, you know, and money back, you know?
Yeah, if you don't get a return offer, we give you your money back.
Facts. The first and most important thing that we think, you know, makes interns really good and get, you know, the highest potential of getting return offer is their ability to be extremely proactive over the summer internship. And what we mean by that is, you know, one, you know, asking for work when you don't have work, right? You know, the last thing is all we want is like an intern who just sits there all day and just read articles, right? That's not being a good worker. You want to be resourceful, right? Because you know, banking in this environment, it's like, there's a funny term of like, you know, burning resources and, you know, making sure juniors are constantly working. If they're not doing pitch material, they're doing marketing material or wedge materials to like generate, you know, future pipelines, right? And so, you know, you want to ask, you know, the analyst, the associate, whoever you're assigned with to do work, you know, and you know, if they're giving you something that's, you know, could be done in half an hour, go back to them later and ask them for, you know, something else to work on, or hey, can I like just, you know, spend 30 minutes over your shoulder learning about what you're doing right now on this project. I think proactively asking questions and asking the right questions, right? Don't ask them, you know, questions that you could just Google or ask, you know, ChatGPT to get responses on, right? I think, you know, asking about the processes, asking about, you know, why you're doing something for a longer project or bigger project is like important, because that shows that you're thinking about the bigger picture and not only thinking about, oh, like I need to get this task done and just not care about the broader picture. In addition to that, it's really about, you know, making sure that people know that you're, you know, available to work and constantly being, you know, the first person that comes to mind when, you know, a task comes to like an associate or an analyst. They're thinking, oh, like who's the best intern to, you know, have work on this. I think like to be that first person is, you know, your ultimate goal throughout your internship.
Yeah, I agree. I think to add on to that, right, like the ultimate goal at the end of the day is to sort of, you know, be that person that interacts and has the most touch points with everybody, right? Especially in like the beginning of your internship when you have like, let's say 5 analysts on your team, you hit all 5 up like once a day or once every other day. You know, even if they don't have work for you, right? Like you're constantly like in their face about it, like not in their face, but like, you know, like next time work comes up, like they'll give it to you, or when they're at the round table, they'll think about you, right? Despite like, even if they haven't worked with you, they're like, hey, this kid is, you know, like he's really proactive. Right? I feel bad I don't have work to give him, right? But he seems like a hard-working kid, so maybe we should give him a return, right?
To add a little bit on that, especially when you're, you know, in person and you're, you know, going up to them asking, or they ask you, hey, swing by my desk, like definitely bring a notebook to really jot down like kind of everything that they're saying and clarify before you go back to your desk, because the last thing you want to do is go back to your desk, have, you know, scribbles on your notebook and not understand what the deliverable was, and going back to the analyst or associate be like, hey, what did you say? Like, what did you say? And that's just like something that you might make a mistake, you know, the first week, but you definitely don't want to make that mistake throughout your internship, because that's not being proactive and, you know, learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think in the virtual age, a lot of us, you know, take notes on our laptops. We forget, you know, just bring a pen and notebook wherever you go, and just try and write something down every conversation you have. Now, the second most important thing to get a return offer is your attitude, right? I think it's very important to have a positive attitude throughout your internship, right? And essentially what that means is that, you know, it just means to be like a nice person, right? I think like there's two layers, right? Like one, there's your summer analyst class that comes in with you, right? And at the end of the day, like you got to be sort of like nice to everybody and be like very collegial, right? And sort of like just just like trying to be friends with everyone.
Yeah.
Like just be very pleasant, right? Because a lot of the analysts around you like sort of notice that thing. And at the end of the day, like summer analysts talk, right? Especially when you have like mentors, which we'll talk to later. And I think in addition to that, it's also, like when you're engaging with analysts and stuff and they're assigning you tasks, right? You should always take every one of those tasks that they're assigning you with open hands, right? Like I know a lot of the times like analysts, associates, like VPs, they have like unreasonable tasks and things like that require a lot of time.
Yeah.
And as a full-time analyst or as a second-year analyst, right? Like, or as a fourth-year analyst, you could push back against those tasks, right? Because you've built goodwill on the team.
Yeah.
But as a summer analyst, right? I think like the important thing is just to honestly
You still gotta prove yourself.
Yeah, just take it, right? Just like suck up the hours, right? Suck up like the menial work and just, just have a smile on your face and just over-explain everything when you're doing things. And just go into it with a positive attitude, ask a bunch of questions, right? Despite sort of how boring the task could be, right? I think that will go a long way in terms of setting a positive impression. So with that said, like we'll do a quick example right now. Hey, do you have anything I could work on right now?
Yeah, John. I've been meaning to try to get in front of you because I heard you're a really hard worker, and I know
Thank you.
John and Ben the other day he said you worked with them a lot on this long project and you stayed till 2 a.m. So
yeah,
I think this next task
I'll do it again. I'll do it.
yeah, easy, right? This one, might take a little longer, and you might get like a week to do it, like no rush at all. But one of my buddy, he works at a VC firm, software VC firm, and he covers the MarTech universe, and he actually sent me a big market map. And so what a market map is it has different subsectors and bunch of different companies that he covers across the space.
Well, that's
and
very
so
interesting.
he sent me a picture of it, and some of the logos are a little bit blurry, but I'm going to send it over to you. And if you could, it's maybe like 7.
Like a picture,
like the logo. Yeah, he took a picture of the whole market map. But you might need a notebook for this. So you wanna make sure you have this whole outline.
Okay.
So first off, I'm going to send you this. Picture that I got from him. Yep. And then, I want you to, zoom in into each one of the logos. Look at the different boxes and see what, vertical they sit under. Whether it's, omni-channel marketing, automation, sales automation, CRM, all the different sub-verticals within MarTech universe.
Wow.
And
that's
then,
a lot of sub-verticals. It's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 plus years, 1,000 companies. Exactly, I'm trying to.
1,000?
Yeah, 1,000 companies.
This market map, this picture is
1,000. 1,000, yep. Yeah.
Like 1 and 3 zeros?
Correct.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. Like I
No,
can't wait to just learn about
I can only
1,000
name like 30 of them, so 1,000, you're
And
gonna help me get up to speed a lot.
I can't wait to help
appreciate
you learn about the rest of the 970.
Stop kissing ass.
Quick math.
Yeah.
That's what we need here.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'd love for you to like punch all 1,000 of them into PitchBook and then try to narrow down.
That's cool. Yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
PitchBook's really cool. I haven't gotten exposed to it, but I'll learn it within a week.
Great. Yeah. And then I'd love to gather back and try to maybe narrow down that 1,000 to 30 or so companies that I could hopefully email and try to get in front of potential IPO targets or sell side
That sounds good.
targets.
I'll mark that down in the Excel for you about maybe what potential deals you could do with each of these 1,000.
Sounds good. Yeah. Use your best judgment.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I really appreciate it.
Okay. See, guys, that's an example of what happens when one of your VPs give you an annoying assignment, 1,000 companies, but at the end of the day, you just gotta suck it up and just do it, right? Because like for example, you're probably gonna be staffed with an analyst on it, and at the end of the day, your analyst probably get annoyed at it too, and you might just push back, or your associate might just push back. So it might just be a wash, right? But like you don't push back, right? It's just let the people above you do it. Just take it with a positive attitude, fingers crossed, and hope something changes.
Yeah.
Right? But if something doesn't, right, and you do this, huge positive impression raises your return offer rate by 1,000%.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough and you're interning at some of the bigger investment banks, they typically have like offshore India team, so you could probably ship it off to one of those guys to do it for you. But that's definitely not the first thing you think about when you get tasked with 1,000 companies to throw into PitchBook. But that's just like a task that you definitely do in banking, even as an analyst. Just maybe not 1,000 companies, because that's quite outrageous. But we just wanted to emphasize and give an example about any task. It could be number crunching, it could be literally anything.
And now the third thing that you guys need to pay attention to, especially in internship, is ultimately taking ownership and responsibility of the work that you have been given, right? I think that's one of the most important things. At the end of the day, like, you guys have a lack of experience, right? Everyone expects you to make mistakes, right? But your job as an intern, despite inevitably making mistakes, right, is to try and minimize the amount of sort of controllable mistakes that you guys can make, right? For example, when it comes to PowerPoint creation, which a lot of you guys will be doing, right? Most of the time, they're gonna be like, here, right, can you make this profile? This is a profile of another company that you can mirror this off of, right? Yeah. And from your perspective, what you gotta do is you gotta try, try your best, right, to make it look exactly the same, and sort of, just mirroring and creating a product that's good for them. It's like doing a school project, right? Like when you're trying to get an A in like a science class or chemistry, math class, and you try your best to give a work product that's very good, right? Like, and one of the surprising things to us always is that a lot of the times interns submit like mediocre work, right? And it's just like, like when you're trying to be like a 4.0 student in your college, like a lot of times when you're making projects, or you put more efforts in your projects than you do like when you're submitting deliverables, right? And that sort of just baffles us sometimes, right? So it's just, you guys just need to take full responsibility, full ownership of your work. And then the most important thing to like sort of see if your work is good or not, right? Especially when it comes to like presentation and stuff, is just look at the presentation, right? Like you guys see advertisements all the time, right? And like if you yourself don't think like the work product is like the best and it could be better, spend that extra 2, 3, 4 hours just making it better before sending it in, right? Because you guys have time, right? Like your timelines are relatively long, but just like don't send something like you might make something you're like, okay, like this is good enough to get by, right? And then you send it in, and then like if the work is mediocre, and then also factoring in the cushion for mistakes that you have as an intern, right? That might increase like your probability for error, right? So just sort of maximize everything you do to the best of your ability, and you guys will be fine with any work that you're assigned.
Yeah, and to touch on a little bit of what he highlighted, the underlying factors really, being extremely detailed oriented, right? So, when someone gives you comments over, Outlook, really ticking off each and every single one of those comments and making sure that you actually went through each one. And sometimes, even at, what we do nowadays, it's like, we highlight, done or finished, did this, or, could write over it in red if you had questions about a particular comment when you send it back on another version. And I think, separately from that is, print out the deck that you're, presenting or going to send back, because, you're not going to really, see those tiny footnotes and other things like jumping things, moving pages and such until you print it out and really see like, oh, like how is it presented if it were to be binded up and brought to like a pitch, a bake off and such. And so through that, like you get to really see kind of like, and actually, reading it on paper, like word per word, as opposed to like on a big screen where, you could, realize that like, the sentence doesn't actually make sense. But when you actually have it printed in front of you, you could really see grammatical errors and other things that is really going to make or break, kind of like show that you spent an extra, 30 minutes printing it out and marking it up yourself, and then going back to your desk and making those changes before submitting it. The fourth and last thing that we think like is extremely critical for you to get a return offer is really networking, right? And so usually like a typical structure of intern programs is you're typically given a junior mentor and a senior mentor. So the junior mentor could be a first year or second year analyst, and then the senior mentor could be VP and above, right? And so the junior mentor is really meant to help you, guide you, sort of you ask him he or she the dumb questions that you don't want to ask anyone else. Whereas like the senior member is really trying to give you a glance into what a career within banking would look like. And so you ask them questions about deal experiences, the sector they cover, and kind of client interactions and how to build a career within financial services. But they're both of those people are willing to be, you know, advocates for you, right? At the end of the day, you should feel free to like leverage them to, you know, meet other product partners, you know, coverage teams and other things, and you leverage them as resources. And then separately, you know, when you think about broader, you know, networking, you want to, at the end of the day, we're going to sit at a round table and think about, you know, does everyone know your name, right? You know, everyone across all levels, and you know, even, you know, admins should know who you are, right? Like, you want to be the person that comes in the morning, says good morning to everyone,
Good morning. Good morning.
put a smile on your face, and they know that, like, oh, like, you know, when they leave at 8 p.m., you're still glued to your desk, as opposed to other interns who may have left. Like, you want to be that person, because they know that, like, they could count on you. Maybe they left something at the office, or that they want you to, like, you know, deliver to them their house, or, you know, oh, I need to print something, like, and you're the only one. They know you're active and there. You know, that all goes hand in hand with FaceTiming, but, you know, that also coincides with networking, right? Because the MD needs to know who you are, or else they're not going to be able to, like, reach you. They'll probably just go on Skype and see who's active and are in the office. Otherwise, they're not going to know who you are. And so, you know, really trying to grab coffee with as many people as you can, and try to, you know, latch on. You know, you could definitely latch on, you know, sector coverage bankers that, you know, you might, you know, get along with better than others, or it's a sector you really are interested in, and, you know, would love to work a project or two on. And so through that, like, they become your advocates, right? Like, an MD could easily, you know, bang on the table and be like, hey, I really like working with Chris. You know, he was great, you know, met with me, and, like, he worked on this project. Like, I think we should definitely hire him, right? I think that goes a long way at the end of the day. And then in terms of, like, you know, social events, you know, typically, you know, you would have, like, you know, maybe a sports event, just given it's the summer, and then, you know, happy hours from here and there. And that's really your opportunity to get to know the rest of the team outside of work, and for them to know who you are personally, right? Like, they might talk about their kids if they're, you know, a senior banker. You know, analysts might, you know, be less serious versus, you know, how they are in the office, and you have to really know who they are, you know, how they spend their weekends, and, you know, how they are, you know, how they grew up, and that's where you build those really close, tight-knit relationships that will carry and be the X factor when it comes down to, you know, getting the return offer.
Yeah, and I think, like, something very important that he said is, you know, we don't mean to sound toxic, but, like, FaceTime is important.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one, get in earlier, be one of the earliest people to get in, be one of the latest people to leave, right? Because when you're late to leave, like, and, like, an analyst is, like, struggling at, like, 12 a.m. in the morning, he looks over it, like, you're there, you can ask for your help, right? And that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the third thing is just to try and network with everyone in your group, right? Analysts included, right? Shoot a quick email to the analyst, associate, VP, MD, and just try and get coffee with them, and then, you know, boom, like, get your name out there, and yeah.
Yeah, I think the last thing to know on that is really, you know, get to know your intern class too, right? You know, part of it, you know, you may feel like being competitive, like, oh, like, I'm competing with so-and-so, but ultimately, you know, you have to think about this as a long-term game, right? Like, you know, the people that you worked with at your intern class, like, may or may not come back, and they may go to greater and bigger things, and probably will, but it's long-term relationships that really, you know, make or break your career. So, you know, don't create enemies. That's, like, the last thing you want to do during your internship.
Because the interns will talk shit to the analyst,
yeah,
and the analyst will spread it around if you're an asshole.
Yeah, like, oh,
you're not going to get a return.
Yeah, like, there's definitely going to be times where, like, 2 interns could be staffed on some project if it's a larger, you know, sell side or M&A project, and you know, don't, you know, go over the top or steal someone else's thunder. I think, like, just working proactively and being in a team, and obviously, like, you know, there's politics around that, but, you know, generally being, like, on the nicer side of things, and being inclusive of other interns is, you know, the way to go.
If you made it this far, thank you again for watching our video, right? At the end of the day, like, I know this market environment isn't the best, right? And there's a lot of speculation about return offer rates and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, don't stress, right? Like, if you are a good intern, you will get a return offer, right? And the idea is that there's just a few big things you need to do. Be very proactive. Be a genuinely nice person to everybody around you. Do good work, right? And then everything else will fall into place, right? Things like cultural fit and stuff like that, that's just cherry on top, right? Like, you will automatically sort of permeate through the team if you just follow these very few simple steps without worrying about other things.
Yeah, I think like, you know, part of that culture piece is like, you know, 50% your personality, but the other 50% and probably more emphasis is really on your work ethic, your willingness to learn. And as long as that will show across, like, you know, there will be people that, you know, really gravitate towards your work ethic and, you know, the work quality that you know, have and would always want you to be on their team. And so that will speak volumes above kind of, you know, whether you play a particular sport or go to this golf club on the weekend, like that would trump all of that. You know, not to say that that's not important, but, you know, I think like it's your, you know, work quality that speaks, you know, above everything else.
Yeah.
And with that, you know, we're going to be making a separate video that touches a little bit more on, you know, what being a cultural fit means and kind of, you know, touch on a little bit of our experiences and, you know, sort of like, you know, perhaps even like, you know, the kind of imposter syndrome sometimes it may seem within financial services if you don't come from like that traditional, you know, WASP type of background and kind of, you know, how to work your way around that. And you know, there's a place for everyone within banking, and, you know, we'll touch on that a little bit more.
And with that said, guys, please drop a like and subscribe and support this video. We will keep releasing more videos going forward.
Yeah,
so
we might have Fiji sponsor us.
Yeah, stay tuned
Yes,
for
sir.
more.